Are you posted to CFB Trenton or thinking about putting it down as one of your top 3 options? Well, then you've come to the right place. Today we're going to talk about a lot of the questions that I often get from people that I've worked with that have come and been posted to this area. Stick around to the end. I'll point out a few of the local favorites that you might want to visit on your next HHT. My name is Jeremy Tremblay. I'm a local realtor here in the Belleville and surrounding areas. If you get any value out of this video, I'd really appreciate if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you can get all future updates. Let's get to it. So first, we'll look at where is Trenton. If you've never been here before, you might not be aware and you might be coming from another province. So Trenton is located right along the 401. It's about an hour and a half east of Toronto. And you'll hear the reference of Trenton all the time, but what you'll actually hear more often when you get here is Quinte West. And that's because that's the actual name of this area. Trenton is just one of the cities that makes up Quinte West. And Belleville is the larger area. It's about 15 minutes to the east of Trenton, and it has the majority of the shopping. The population in Belleville is reaching towards 60,000, whereas Trenton is around 20,000, both of those growing. So the first thing that you're going to think of if you're coming to this area is housing, because in order to actually move to an area, you need to secure accommodations. With CFB Trenton being the largest Air Force base in all of Canada, the actual base itself is divided into 2 parts. You've got the south side and the north side, and of course the airfield that divides the two. And then you have the PMQs, which are right next to the base. RCF Road is what runs along there. It's got the RCF Museum, and on the one side is the airfield, on the other side, the PMQs. They are located much closer to the north side of the base, some of them close enough that you could actually walk to work or bike to work like many people do. So as we're seeing in many places, but I think it's even more so here in Trenton, is that the PMQ waitlist has been growing quite a bit. It is by far the most economical option in terms of rent. The problem is that because the housing prices in this area have gone up, it's forced more people to get onto that list. So the first thing you want to consider is to call up CFHA, find out what the wait list is. They're of course going to ask if you're a Pri 1. If you are, that puts you up in the standings. But from there, from what I'm hearing, and it is constantly changing, that wait list is quite large. So a lot of people are having to then look at secondary options, which is rent on the economy or purchase. So I mentioned how economical it is to rent a PMQ. The rentals within Trenton or even Belleville, which like I said is 15 minutes down the road, are not very cheap anymore. A basement apartment in this area, a 2-bedroom basement apartment, is going to run you about $1,500, between $1,500 potentially up to $1,700. And then a main floor apartment, you're going to be starting at the $1,700 and working your way up towards $2,000. And that's for rentals in these areas. And then from there, we're looking at purchasing and what type of housing is available. The prices kind of went crazy like they did across most parts of Canada, but then they came back down. Right now, I'm recording this in November of 2023. Prices have dipped, and it is a good time where buyers are able to take a little bit of time and think about it and have conditions and such. You can get into single family homes. You're looking starting in the $400,000 range. That really is kind of the entry level for the single family. And then it goes up from there. To give you an idea, you can get into them in that 400 range. Some of them might need work. And then you have new build construction, which you can get into between 650 and 7. And then the nicer finishes, you're going to get between the 700 and 800,000 range. And so that's where the housing is. Trenton being 20,000 people, there aren't as many options as over in Belleville, but it is growing. So there actually is quite a bit of development happening directly within Trenton. And the reason we're seeing that is, as I mentioned earlier, our proximity to Toronto. That's what's causing all the growth in this area, because so many people that might work in the GTA, which is the greater Toronto area, the kind of the outskirts, many of them are moving to areas like this and just commuting. So areas like Bowmanville and Ajax, Pickering, Oshawa, people are actually living in Trenton and commuting 1 or 2 days a week down the 401. And so with that added pressure on the housing market, you're seeing kind of more competition in the area. And so these are things you want to be aware of and really kind of look into. So I would suggest if you're thinking about adding Trenton to your list, give me a call early on and just start really investigating, going online, looking at houses, getting used to what houses are really being listed at and what they're actually selling for, so you can be really educated in advance. So once you've decided whether you want to purchase or rent on the economy, you have to kind of figure out where you want to look. I mentioned earlier how Belleville is the larger area with the larger population, so you tend to have more options there. The thing to consider, of course, is the commute. And from Belleville, you have two main options. You can come the 401 route, so Belleville 401 to Trenton. It's not too far off the highway to get to the base. And the other option is Highway 2, which is right along the water, and that actually ends up right in the base. Highway 2 goes between the airfield and the south side. So both those options, they require a commute. Depending on where you are within Belleville, you're looking at 15-20 minutes to get there on average. Now, if you want to stay within Trenton direct, Trenton itself is divided in two halves with a river right down the middle. And I mentioned the PMQs, CFB Trenton, that's all kind of on the east side, and there is housing. But then on the west side, then you've got the majority of all the new builds I mentioned are all happening over there. All the new stores, everything else is happening over on the west side. So it's growing quite a bit on that side. Now, of course, I mentioned it's a river dividing it. And so you have a bridge right going down Main Street that goes over the water. And then there's another bridge a little bit more north. And then you've got Highway 401. Those are your three options to get from the one side to the other. Trenton is not that busy of a city, but when you consider schools getting out around 3 o'clock and a lot of military people that tend to finish their day that early as well, it can get congested, especially when you're trying to get over those bridges. And then the morning traffic can also get somewhat busy. And so if you're working shift work, you're working, the aircraft technician or whatever it might be, it's usually not too bad. But if you are kind of the day job shift, be aware. I would highly suggest that when you're here on an HHT, mimic that commute back and forth to these different areas and just understand the traffic patterns a little bit, because that'll be one factor that some people just don't want to deal with. So why is Trenton such a popular area? You may have heard from others that are posted here that it's a very desirable place to be posted. The first reason, without a doubt, is our proximity to Toronto. There are many people that are in the military and joining the military that have their family in Toronto. And it's not uncommon that on a Friday, everyone hits the road, they drive to Toronto. It's just that simple, and that's in large part the main reason why so many people want to be posted here. Now, aside from that, if you don't have family there, it still has all the benefits of being near the bigger cities. So it's a small town feel, Trenton itself with only 20,000. But if you don't want the big city feel, a lot of people that come here, they will look even on the outskirts. So there's small towns such as Frankford, which is only 10 minutes north. You've got Stirling, which is a little bit more north. There's Ottawa. These small little towns that you can be a part of and then just drive into Trenton. And then those cities and those towns still have access to all the bigger city amenities. Myself and my family, we were posted here. I was in the military over 10 years and worked in air traffic control, and we decided we love this place. We don't want to move. And we have family that are in Toronto. We go all the time. We take a drive down the 401 to Oshawa, jump on the train, go to a Blue Jays game. Very common. We do that a Saturday, a Sunday, and then just drive right back home. And it's fantastic. And if we need anything in terms of groceries or shopping, we've got Belleville, or you've got Kingston, which is just an hour down the road east on the 401. So it has all the options. And then the other aspect is the outdoors. So while you have all the big city amenities, you've got access to so many trails, a lot of conservation areas. I mentioned Ottawa has a ski hill, small hill. So if you're coming from some of the bigger ones in Quebec, don't expect much, but it is 5 minutes north of the 401. easy access, but a lot of trails for biking, ATVs, skidooing. It's fantastic. And if you don't know much about this area, another reason why it's gained popularity is Prince Edward County. You'll hear it referred to as the county or Peck. It has exploded in popularity from Toronto. Over the last number of years, people were looking for an escape from the big city, and Prince Edward County has a lot of really nice sandy beaches, and those are provincial parks, those areas. And it is pretty amazing. There's wineries all over. There's about 40 wineries within the county that you can do wine tours. But those beaches and those wineries you can go and enjoy, and specifically with the beaches, because they are provincial parks, it does cost to go to them. So if you want to go for a day at the beach, it costs, I think it's in the range of $20 for a family to go. But if you're military, we actually get free access Monday to Friday. So we don't have to pay to get involved in those, and there aren't as many tourists during the weeks in the summertime. So that's a fantastic option. And then one other thing to consider with Trenton is that we actually do have, even though it's small, we actually have a pretty nice hospital. And Belleville also has Belleville General, so it's a fantastic hospital. So you're not missing out. You're not having to drive to a bigger city to get that. Now, I will say, small town, close to the big city, we are not immune to the doctor shortage. It is very prevalent here, just like anywhere else. If you are a military member, of course you have access to the MIR, so it's not an issue. But for the family members, just know that the wait list is pretty long. You have the Emerge. There are walk-in clinics that unfortunately over the last number of years, they've all turned over to virtual clinics. So there's no actual doctor on call at those clinics. You go in, you're with a camera, and you can get prescriptions and such working that way. So we are confident that the programs they have in place will be bringing more doctors here. And hopefully because of that, once again, proximity to Toronto, more doctors will want to establish a practice here. But for right now, plan when you're coming here that you will not have a family doctor. It will take time to get that. So if you're moving to Trenton and you have children, there are of course a few other things that you need to consider. The first thing I'd look into is the Family Resource Center. The MFRCs here are fantastic. They have a lot of resources, as is in the name, and you can access those, one directly in Trenton, and there's also one in Belleville. And one of the first things people tend to ask is daycare options. On the economy, the daycares are quite full. They are quite busy. From what I've heard, it's always good to get onto the Facebook groups and try and find if there are extra spots. But the MFRC does have options for military members for daycares, which is fantastic. They have daycares specifically in Trenton, Belleville, and they have one in Ottawa that's accessible as well. So those are good. I would always suggest getting ready early. Call early in preparation and try and get your name on that list. Also in Trenton, there is a early on center. That's a fantastic option if you want to just bring your children from infants all the way up to age 4 before they go to school, and you can get in there and just have some social time and also meet other members, other family members that are there. And it is located, as I said, right within the PMQs, right next to the base. So it's a fantastic option. I would highly encourage you to get involved in that. The other thing that you're going to want to consider, of course, when you're moving and looking for a place to live, are schools. So if you have children, whether it be early or later in high school, you're going to want to look on the Tri-Board website. You go to that link and type in any address that you're interested in living at, and it will narrow down the different zones and which schools that you can be bused to. There are a lot of great options, whether it be in Belleville, Trenton, or the small areas and the small towns north. But you have to be aware of that because you're only allotted to certain zones. There are French immersion schools, French schools, there's English and Catholic schools. Specifically in Trenton on the base, right within the PMQs, we have 2 French schools. There's the French public school, which takes you from kindergarten all the way up to grade 12. And then there's the French Catholic school, which is kindergarten to grade 8. This year, they actually had grades 9 and 10 there as well. But traditionally, that is a K-8 school. And then you also have private school options actually here in the area. There are some Christian private schools that go all the way up to high school. And then there's Albert College, which is available in Belleville. So a lot of options, but you're going to want to do your homework because that may affect where it is that you're going to want to live. Now there's one caveat I want to make sure you're aware of. If you go onto that Tribor website, you type in your address and nothing shows up, there is a dividing line on the far side of west side of Trenton where that tri-board ends, and you're now a part of a different school board, even though you're still in Trenton. So that's something to be aware of. If you do have more questions about that, my wife is a teacher. She knows all about it. Give me a call. I can fill you in. So you've made it to this point. We've talked about everything related to moving. The last thing I mentioned was some of the local favorites. So you're coming here for an HHT, and of course, there's a food allowance involved. Everybody knows it. It's probably the most enjoyable part. And so some of the local favorites that you're gonna want to visit include, here's some of the options. First off, Burger Revolution. You're just looking to get a great burger. It's fantastic. It's in Belleville. They've got some very interesting menu options. Then they add different options as they go. Check that out. In terms of pizza, a lot of opinions on this, so I'm only telling you based on the latest voting. Bourbon Street Pizza in Belleville is the top voted. There are many great options for pizza, but that's one that you'll want to add to your list. If you're looking to just get a coffee as you're going around town, the Grind and Vine is downtown Trenton. It's a great option to stop in right along the river, actually, so very picturesque. I would highly recommend that. Also, from there, bakery. One of my personal favorites is Wanamaker's. They have great options. I will say specifically, if you go there, get the maple bacon donut. Delicious. You won't regret it, and you'll probably walk out with a lot of other options. If you're looking for dinner, two of the options I would say, right in Trenton, first of all, you've got Italian with Tommaso's. It is right downtown as well, right along the water. So if you are here during the summertime, they have a nice patio area that you can enjoy. And then Mexican over in Belleville, Chilangos. It's a very popular spot. They actually moved into a new location just, I think last year, and they are thriving, very popular. So those are the areas that I would highly suggest you check out. So hopefully I've given you a little bit more information as you figure out whether this is a place that you want to get posted to. Of course, if you're just adding it to your top 3, well, it's in the hands of your career manager, but I hope that you make it to Trenton. And if you have any other questions, definitely reach out. Like I said, I had over 10 years in the military, and then my family, we decided to stay in this area because we loved it so much. We have family in Toronto. We go visit all the time. And so feel free to reach out. I do still speak military. I may not know every acronym, but I stay up to date on everything. I understand the BGRS program quite well. Done HHCs myself, and so can kind of relate on that front. But I look forward to your call. Like I said, my name is Jeremy Tremblay. I'm a realtor in this area. My number, my email is down below. If you've gotten anything from this video, hit the little thumbs up there. Also, subscribe, hit the bell. That way you can look into the other videos. I've mentioned the small towns around here. I've done videos on some of those towns, Belleville, so it'll give you a better lay of the land. And really, it's good to do the homework as you're leading up to those HHTs. Till next time.